Hello you beautiful people and welcome back to another video. If you watched my other video about the upcoming skins for Genshin Impact, then you know what's coming. Recently, 4 skins have been released for the characters Rosaria, Jean, Amber, and Mona. But in short and in simple terms, the skins were added because the Chinese government wants female video game characters to cover up. So MiHoYo is remodeling these characters in the Chinese client so they can stay within the restrictions of their government. Since the remodels are not transferring over to the global client, MiHoYo instead added them in as skins for the characters in game. But how good are these skins? Are they better designed than the original designs of the characters? That's what I am here to discuss with you all today. We will be taking a character on in a separate video each. Today I am here to discuss our thorny benevolence, Rosaria. But before we get into it, I have a few things to say. First, I would like to hear what you guys think about her design and her new skin in the comments below. Which do you think is better? Will you be using the new skin? Any other thoughts? Leave them down below as I would love to hear them. And if you do end up enjoying the video, please hit the like button and maybe consider subscribing as well, as it helps me out a whole lot and costs you guys nothing. Last thing, I promise, it's a disclaimer. This video is opinionated. This video is not to insult, bastardize, or ridicule anyone's tastes or even MiHoYo themselves. I wish no ill will on anyone believing opposite me or anyone involved in designing the characters. Character design is a very subjective topic in and of itself and should be discussed as such. Nothing I say or believe should be taken as fact. This video is purely for entertainment, information, and to discuss this particular topic. Hyperbole and sass is for the funny hoo-hoo ha-has and not due to actual feelings or opinions as they are hyperbole. Now, with that out of the way, let's hop right in. Rosaria is like no other character in the bright, idealistic world of Teyvat. With parents slain and having been kidnapped at birth, Rosaria lived a life of hardship with her pack. Being the prize of a group of bandits her entire life, she fought for and with her family. On one frigid night, she attempted to leave the camp she lived in, only to be stopped and taunted by the same man who stole her. He offered her freedom, but only if she was able to kill him for it. Little battle took place as Rosaria decimated her competition, emerging as not only the victor, but also with a vision and, in turn, the newfound appreciation of her group. Her life with them did not last long, as soon after they were wiped out by the Knights of Favonius, where she was given a chance for redemption by Grandmaster Varka. She now works as a nun at the Church of Favonius on behalf of Varka's recommendation, despite shirking her duties to instead go about investigating potential threats to Mondstadt, eliminating them when necessary. The cleansing light of the church and the gods had become nothing but blinding to Rosaria, as she cares little about the gods and asking for protection, instead desiring to take matters into her own hands when necessary. However, she still sees herself indebted to the city of Mondstadt, so she acts as their nighttime protector because of their honest goodwill. Along with their murderous behavior, her extremely untrusting and pharaoh-like tendencies contrast violently with almost everyone else in the continent. The Genshin website puts it best as they describe her as a sister of the church, although you wouldn't know it if it weren't for her attire. An unusual woman with sharp, piercing words and a cold manner. Her movements are unpredictable. She often leaves without anyone noticing. She acts with some kind of purpose, but others don't seem to know exactly what she stands for. She's a mystery, a figure cloaked in the night, but doing what exactly? Simply put, she's the Batgirl to Diluc's Batman. An assassin through and through, she lurks under the cover of darkness to put an end to any threat to Mondstadt. Best part? She looks as such. The sharp points covering her body from her crowned veil to her clawed fingertips scream danger. Her bios continue describing her using sharp language, such as her title, Thorny Benevolence, and her constellation, Spinia Corona, which translates from Latin to thorny or spiny crown, along with her monochromatic color palette having usage with assassins and being reminiscent of blood splattered in dark noir black and white graphic novels. Her design also shows that she is indeed a murderer. This goes along further into her gameplay as she allows herself and allies to move swiftly under the cover of night, and she is able to teleport behind and strike down enemies using her elemental skill. Accentuating this matter, her veil, while also tying her to her occupation as a nun, ties her more to death, as it looks like one mourned by a widow mourning at a funeral. That, along with the ornate patterns all over her and her absurdly deadlish pale complexion, are huge notes pointing to that of a vampire. Her cat-like eyes and feral demeanor push her even more into this direction as a vampiric huntress. Not only that, but assassins and vampires are seen in many sources of literature and other forms of art as compatriots working alongside each other. Just as it relates to her assassin likeliness, her monochromatic color palette also pushes her vampiric nature forward, as it seems like all semblance of color has been drained from her body, other than the aspect of blood. And again, just like the assassin, her passive to move swiftly during the night strengthens her vampiric nature. Being a main feature in her constellation, the crown is vital to the design of Rosaria as well. While being worn by those of royalty and higher stature, like vampires are usually depicted as, crowns are normally shown to be of relation to kings, the monarchy, and power. And also similarly to vampires, the crown is generally European in origin and related to the church like Rosaria herself. The crown crown also has relations to that of power, pain and suffering, and dominance, which I guess is where I segue into Rosaria being designed after a dominatrix. The fishnets and stilettos might appear strange for the design of a vampire assassin nun, but she was designed this way with purpose. Along with the crown, her more sexual aspects are present for reasons of demonstrating sexual power and domination. It doesn't come out of nowhere either, as being dominated by a sexy nun is a very popular Halloween costume and, bedroom roleplay scenario. The ties between lust, the crown, and vampires are also numerous. Generally, we as people are attracted to those who have power, whether it be money or status or strength. The crown is an embodiment of all three of these attributes, by being absolutely loaded, being the most important people in the region, and being able to control and dictate an entire region as well. Vampires are generally just an upgrade, as they tend to be royalty themselves. They control legions of followers, mostly other vampires, and they tend to show exuberant amounts of power through magic or other superhuman abilities. There's also an absurd amount of intimacy in the sucking of blood that vampires act in. Fighting tends to be something that some people actively partake in. I don't shame. The desire mixed with the intimacy of feeding and caring for a loved one makes the act not only a sexual one, but that of love as well. Her dominatrix aesthetic not only is well deserved to be inserted into her design, but also completes it and wraps it up with a nice little bow on top. She's a character that skulks around during the night, stalking her prey before diving in, striking down her enemies from the shadows, and completely dominating any creature she hunts. She's a dominatrix vampire assassin nun, most of which is incredibly blatant. The issue I have with her design is that it does not represent the church that she is a part of. This might be purposeful, but I would argue that if she is designed without the church in mind, then why is she a part of it at all? Despite being named after rosary beads, her veil seems to be the only factor that contributes to this characteristic of hers, but with its thorny design and ravaged appearance, it is more reminiscent of death and a feral vampire rather than a nun's attire. It also seems too put together for someone who used to be a bandit and is now actively seeking battle, as she viciously hunts down any enemy to Mondstadt she knows of. The tears would help reinstate her bandit heritage, as her low class and outcast nature is reinforced with her being the only character in Mondstadt to use a polearm, which is a weapon considered to be for the poor. Her bandit heritage is reinforced a bit more due to the straps and sharp objects she carries around with her. Her design is freaking fantastic, but is missing two main features. I believe that if she would just be given a few more tears like the one in her veil and more connectors to the church, her design would be top tier. Her new design decides to take a different approach from the original, as she strays away more from the dominatrix side of her design and leads more into the nun aspect, as if Barbara finally caught up with her and forced her into something more like the other nuns. The design also takes a different main color focus, from being the reddish burgundy to being almost all black. There is less white in the design too, as it has been covered by the black on both her crown and chest. The design also covers the legs and shoulders in full black, making it feel more muddled, especially towards the skirt, as it is hard to tell where it ends and where her legs begin. While the design is less open and more conservative than the original, making it feel more closely linked with the church, it takes away both her dominatrix side and the diversity of color that she did have. This design instead decides to opt more for a shadowed nun look. It does indeed fix one of the issues I have with the original design, where it is nowhere near related to the church, but at the cost of losing a lot of her dominatrix side. The fishnet tights being replaced with the half short, half pant thing she has going on is just a downgrade in this aspect. However, the lines going up her boot pants accentuate the length of her legs, making them look longer and therefore more attractive. The boot she has on one side is similar to that of a thigh-high boot like one Ariana Grande would wear. That, with the gap she has in between itself and the short design on the same side, makes it seem like she is teasing us with a little peek at what is underneath. The attractiveness in this way is still a really great way of demonstrating power through sex. Just take a look at Widowmaker, who is practically all leg. However, this style is more of a classy sort of seduction instead of the garish in-your-face nature, or being all fishnet, which matches up more with Rosaria's own brutish nature. This concept does work, but I feel like they should have leaned into the sexual role here more by copying the short and boot thing to the other side, lowering the boot length, adding the fishnets in between, and some more color variation in the boots instead of just all black. They could add similar patterns like those on her gauntlets or veil, or they could add some silver spikes on them to connect her more with her dangerous side. I think at that point it would be the best Rosaria we would ever see. Even though I have kind of bashed the skin, I do think it holds its own to her base model. The skin itself is really great at representing Rosaria, and even though it does take away more than it gives, the fact that her color palette still fits despite being muddled, and the loss of lust coming off of Rosaria is not as necessary to telling her story as the church is to her, leads me to feel as if this skin is just Rosaria but better. Rosaria Plus, if you will. I do wish that she did keep more of her sexual all aspects, but I do think that this design is at least serviceable, if not just better. At first, I didn't know if I was going to do this, but in the end, I decided I am going to continue on with the rankings for these 4 videos. That being said, Rosaria is going to go into the top of A tier, as it does absurdly well tying up Rosaria's design, but I do think it can use an adjustment here and there. I also really enjoy her more unique appearance, as she looks even more dead than the actual fricking zombie we currently have in the game. Her skin would be at the same level, even though I do think it is just a little bit better. The fact that I think it can use touch-ups here and there prevents it from being in any higher tier. Now my question for you, do you think this is correct? Would you put Rosaria up as high as I did, or would you say she is worse? Did I perhaps forget something that I should have added? Rate me in the comments down below, but please don't hold back. I like the way it hurts. But with that being said, that's all I have for today. I can't wait to continue this conversation in my next video, and I hope to see you all then. Until then, bye bye.